If you're an author and you keep getting no's from folks when you ask them to buy your book, or you feel like the people that should be supporting you are not, then this is the video for you. I'm Ashley, the owner of Shep Publishing, and we help authors get from the page to the people with efficient and effective marketing strategies. And today we're going to be talking about why your book is not for everyone. Now, I say this with love, but everything ain't for everybody, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you can't be successful. It doesn't mean that you can't find the right people for your book, which we'll talk about in a bit. But it does mean that you should really consider how much time and energy you're spending on having your book be pitched to people who are just not interested or who the book is just really not for. And this is something that I see that's pretty common in the author industry. I'm an author myself. And I see fellow authors who either share, wow, I can't believe my A1s, my day ones, they didn't support my book, or they didn't come to my book launch, or they are sending people DMs of their book and then wondering why people are not buying the book. And so today we're going to talk about why that might be the case and dig a little deeper, and also discuss things that will work and how to get it easier. Yes. And so before we jump into that, I do want to share about my summer sales series, which includes a focus on sales and marketing on the side over here. And so we'll be talking about, in the series, we'll be talking about creating raving fans, which are people who will gladly encourage others to buy your book for you without you even really doing no, I won't say much, without you having to encourage people to buy the book for you. The second class will talk about waking up to Amazon sales. So those are what I like to call sleeper sales, meaning that people will be able to buy your book when they didn't even know who you were before finding your book on Amazon. Then the third class will talk about book marketing basics. And then lastly, I'll talk about how to get hundreds or thousands of copies of your book sold to the right audience through organizations and nonprofits. Now, back to our point for today. Your book isn't for everyone. And that's this common misconception, and I don't know where it's come from or where kind of the root cause of it is. But there seems to be the sentiment that people think, oh, my book is for everybody. Everybody wants a copy of my book. It can help anybody and everybody. And I often see this in the memoir space. And I don't know if it's the concept of, okay, well, your life story can help other people, which it can. And there are aspects of all books that can be beneficial for folks, especially if you have a nonfiction book. Of course, you are going to have lessons and things like that that might assist someone. However, that doesn't mean that everyone is going to want to read your book. And sometimes that can be a bit of a hard pill to swallow. It's something where, of course, your book, I like to refer to your book as your baby, and it's this thing that you've nurtured and help it to grow, and then finally it's produced and things of that sort in the publishing process. And so it can be something that is a little bit jarring when folks are like, oh, I mean, they might not directly, well, actually, let me take that back. Some people are telling me that they're getting negativity, like direct, like, oh, your little book, like that kind of thing, or you writing a book, who do you think you are, that kind of aspect. Of course, you're going to have those kind of people regardless. But then there's also the subtlety of, okay, well, maybe they buy the book, but then they don't share it, or they buy the book and don't leave a review. And I'm seeing that some authors are really jarred by that, or they're feeling some kind of way. And I want to encourage you to, one, not worry about those haters, because to some degree, those folks are haters, but they're not going to block the blessings of your book, which I've talked about before in previous videos. But then also, really consider, is that person your ideal reader? And so is the fact that they are not jumping for joy or extremely excited about your book, is that really a huge disconnect? So like, for example, I sent out an email recently talking about if you were trying to sell your book, and let's say your book was for Gen Zers who are really into fashion. And online, there's this running joke that people can spot millennials. I'm a proud millennial, but in I say that kind of with hesitation because people, anyway, whatever, I'm a proud millennial. But everybody underneath me is not a millennial as well. Like, I'm 36. There's two generations that are below me. They're not millennials. Anyway, so Gen Z kind of has a running joke that they can spot millennials from a mile away because of the type of socks we wear. And so I have on ankle socks right now. A lot of Gen Zers like tube socks, yada, yada. So my point in the email was that if your book was for someone who is a Gen Zer, who is really into fashion, and you were trying to pitch it to a millennial, that there's going to be a bit of a disconnect. So a lot of millennials are wearing the same clothes that we've worn for a while, or the same style of clothes that we've worn for a while since like high school. So trying to pitch something to the wrong person is going to lead you to have a harder sell. And it's also going to potentially hurt your feelings because this person is not really interested in what you're trying to sell them, when in actuality, you could just go find out where the Gen Z, I was going to say kids, but they're not kids, where Gen Z folks hang out. Same thing with your book. You can just find where your people hang out and then pitch to those people. And that's something I'll be talking about in the series of masterclasses, is finding raving fans and getting those folks to get bulk book orders. And so going back to the point is that when you are thinking about who is your book for, there's certain things that you're going to look out for. There's certain things that you're going to determine, so that way you are selling and pitching your book or encouraging people to buy your book who are actually interested in what you have to offer. And so it's something where, for example, and this ties back to a question I got from Keyshawn in my Sell More Books Facebook group. If you're not a member, check out the link in this description of this video, and then you'll be able to hang out with us in the free community. It's a private community, so if you have questions and things like that, it's a safe space. And so he was asking about my thoughts about pitching cold leads. So, and I'll explain what that means. So pitching people who you've never talked to them before, they have no idea who you are, and what my take on that was. And so there are two schools of thought to that. So, and just to take a step back, cold leads versus warm leads. Cold leads are people who, once again, they have no idea who you are, they've never heard of you, haven't had a conversation. Warm leads are people who, they have some awareness of you, and it depends, it can be warm or hot, but they have some awareness of you, they know about you, they know about your topic, you're not having to convince them of as many things. And so when you're looking to sell your book, you really have to decide what avenue you want to go on. So I see that a lot of authors are choosing to run ads, either Amazon ads or Facebook ads, or they're really thinking that ads are like the bee's knees, like, oh, if I run these ads, I'm automatically going to get sales. And that may or may not be the case. When you are looking at what types of people that you are trying to pitch your book to, you want to think about who and where do I want to spend my energy with. So if you're pitching to cold leads, those folks who might not know who you are, there's a certain awareness period that they're going to have to go through in order to, one, know who you are in the first place, two, like you, or at least feel comfortable enough with you to be able to give you money or even give you the time of day, and then trust you to be able to have that transaction, whether it's a bulk book order or it is having you come and speak, or just purchasing one copy of your book. And so I'm not saying this to say that cold leads are bad. They're definitely not bad, because at some point you are going to exhaust your audience of people who've purchased your book, which I'll make a note to come back to in a sec. And if I don't, add it to the comments. But you want to be mindful to pick people who are going to be an easier sell. So for example, going back to, I'll use a different example. And I'll use Keyshawn's because he is the one who asked this question. For him, he has a book for HBCUs. And so, or it's about HBCUs. And so for him, he's going to want to pick organizations that are either adjacent to HBCUs, or who have people who have gone to HBCUs, or who have kids who have gone to HBCUs because he has a children's book, or people who are interested in it. So maybe it's something like alumni associations from these different colleges. And that's something that he can tap into. And once he gets a few of them to say yes, or one of them to say yes, oh, okay, well, this Bethune-Cookman, they ordered X amount of copies of books. FAMU, do you want to order some copies of the books? And it could be something that's like a recruitment type of thing, where they are bringing in kids from a young age. Like, okay, starting that process. Like, okay, you're a kid. You might not even know about college. You might not even know about HBCUs in general. However, here's something that can teach you about it. And then also working with adjacent organizations. So fraternities and sororities, historically Black fraternities and sororities, they are going to be a great resource for him, because he's going to be able to, one, tap into those initiatives that each of them have. They have national initiatives and they have chapters across the country and internationally. Shout out to AKs. And proud member. just speaking from experience, there are different initiatives that have to be covered, and there is money and funding for those initiatives. So they are looking for people to be able to give money to in order to match those initiatives. And then also at the collegiate level, so working with those student organizations that are from the fraternities and sororities, but also different organizations at this collegiate level. So I know I didn't go to HBCU, but even at my PWI, my predominantly white institution, University of Georgia, go Dogs, there were different organizations that were within it in order to make sure that I felt safe and comfortable as somebody who didn't look like the majority of the people who went to the organization. And so, regardless of your book's topic, making sure that you are tapping into places that are, I keep saying tap in, tap in. Making sure that you are finding organizations or finding groups or finding nonprofits that already have something that's a vested interest in what your book is about. So, for example, from my personal experience, I pitch to churches that I know are doing the Daniel fast, that have members who are familiar with it, and who might need additional support and resources, because those are what two of my books are about. And then those are opportunities for me to be able to have a semi-cold pitch, because they don't know me, but they at least know the topic. It's not something where I'm having to educate them on the topic of the Daniel fast and also about introducing them to me to let them know why they should have me come and speak. And so when you're doing this with your books, whether it's an organization or an individual, you want to try to find something that is going to be adjacent and aligned with what they're already familiar with or what they already stand for. And so looking at the organizations or looking at the individual's beliefs system, or things that they might post, or things that they might be aligned with, are going to make it easier for you to sell to someone, because they are already familiar with the topic, and then eventually they can get familiar with you. So thank you, Keisham, for that question. Another reason why your book isn't for everybody is because though you will have people who support you, so you will have people who are just excited that you're writing a book. You will have people who are just like, oh, like it's amazing. I really want to support you. Let me buy a copy. Those people will buy copies. However, in general, most people don't read the books that they purchase. And that's no shade, no shame. It's just statistically, studies show that people do not read the books that they purchase. Part of that is because time, energy, they forget about it. It sits on a shelf. It looks pretty, all that jazz. That's fine. However, you want people to not only read the book that you sell them, but you also want them to leave a review. You want them to share it. You want them to be excited and be what I like to call those raving fans of your book. And so, with that, if you're picking somebody who is not really aligned with your book's topic and not really familiar with the topic, aligned with it, or really even excited about the topic, then it's something that it's going to make it harder to do those three things. They're going to be less likely to read it. So if they didn't read it, then they're not going to share it necessarily. And then they're probably not going to leave a review, or, I mean, we want people to leave reviews if they read the book, but they are not going to, I got some hair product in here. I just realized that. But anyway, they are not necessarily going to read the book or leave a review. And so once again, this goes back to having an audience that is ready to buy, ready to purchase, and excited and ready to share the work that you've done. And so recently, there was a woman who posted in my Facebook group for my food side of my books, because I have books that are on for my chef business before I got into publishing. She shared that my devotional that I'm now getting done in audiobook version, she shared that the devotional was something she looked forward to every day. She shared that she tried to do the Daniel fast before and she was not successful, but with the help of my devotional, she was able to stay on track. Now, that's something that she already had the awareness of it. She knew she needed some help, and so she purchased the book. And then now she said she's going to buy one again because she wants to do the fast again. And she also is going to change her eating habits to align with that moving forward. So then this gives me another opportunity to share with her my cookbook, which is what I did, because it's going to be a good fit for her. She is already familiar with me. She's familiar with my product, because my book, which is the product in this case. And so she's somebody who's a warm lead and who is going to be a raving fan because she's been able to get a transformation from using one of my books. And so had I focused on trying to get people who didn't know what the Daniel fast was and were not open to it, because I do have people who it's their first time doing the Daniel fast who use my books. But getting somebody who's like not a believer, not open to being a believer, and also who is not wanting to make that lifestyle change, even for the short 3-week period, it makes it a harder sell. So instead, finding spaces where your ideal reader hangs out is going to be key because of the things that I mentioned before. And so once again, this is something that I'll talk about more deeply in my sales and marketing masterclass series. And so focusing on creating those raving fans in order to get people who are going to be book buyers who are gladly willing to recommend your book and advertise for you. So if you would like to join this series at the time of this recording, each class is $99, or you can buy 3 classes and get 1 free. If you're watching, you don't have the description, you can scan that QR code that's up there at the top, but I will put the link to the page to order in the comments and the description for you. And so moving on to our next part, I do want to address cold leads. And so those are people who have no idea who you are. They have no awareness of you. Are those a good idea for you to pitch your book to? Thinking about the whole, is my book for this person? Definitely not opposed to cold leads. However, you want to actually check out the video that I have about bulk book orders for, it's over on YouTube, bulk book orders, and on the recording I'll put the little card there so you can click on it. But for this, when you are pitching to people who you don't know or who don't know you, then you still want to position yourself and explain why you're relevant. You want to explain why they need you and why what you have is going to be something that is going to make their lives better, or the lives of the people who are in that organization. And so in order to do that, you do want to make sure you are clear and succinct. You want to approach them in the right way. You want to come correct, whether it be on LinkedIn, depending upon who it is for. If you're doing something like corporate contracts, that's a good place to start with that. And then also making sure that you are ready for the yes. Like one of my coaches says, Audrey Richmond, she has a book called Ready for the Yes. You want to position yourself and make sure that you have your ducks in a row, make sure you're in alignment with what it is that you need to have in order for them to be able to check out your stuff, in order to have a personal brand, or if you're working as an organization or a company, to have your stuff together so that when they are ready to purchase, they say, okay, I can look at their stuff. I know that you've done this before. I know that you are at least a credible person if you haven't done it before. I see you have your social media and it's consistent. I see that you're sending out emails. I see that you're doing XYZ. I see that you are working in a community space, or whatever the case may be in your industry, in order to impact change, and also to make it so that it's like, okay, this is a credible person. I can trust them with my money. I can trust them with our time. I can trust them with our corporate dollars. So once again, if you are going to do cold pitching, reaching out to people who you've never talked to before, or who have no awareness of you, make sure your stuff is together. Make sure you're ready for the yes, and that they are able to trust your presence that you have online or even offline, if that's the case of what you're pitching to. Now, some strategies that don't work that I see for authors that are doing this pitching route is sliding in people's DM and just, I've literally had people slide in my DM and just send their book link, like no other description, just a link to your book. What are we doing? Why are you sending me this? Why are you sending me this link? One, hello, how are you? Tell me something about your book. And then the next level of that, I've had people say that like I've connected with before, but we hadn't talked in like months and months and months. And the connection before was not really a strong connection. It was just like they had asked me questions and things of that sort, which is fine. I don't mind folks ask me questions. That's not what I'm saying. But then it's just like, oh, okay, my pre-sale's open. Buy my pre-sale. What? If if that person that you're sliding in their DM is not your ideal reader, I'm not going to say you're wasting your time, but there are easier and more efficient methods that you can use in order to sell your book. Especially in the sense of if you're doing that on a one-by-one and you're doing it manually, you're not using some type of automation software. Also, think about you. Would you want somebody to do the same thing for you? If you hadn't really talked to this person, you don't really know who they are, you've maybe had 1 or 2 exchanges, how would you feel if they did that to you? Honestly, probably not great. Like if I don't know you and we haven't had a conversation and don't have an ongoing conversation, we don't really know each other very well, and you're not sharing some information or background or anything about your book, that's not the route that we want to go. And so same thing, think about it on Instagram. You probably are getting messages in your inbox from people trying to market you on Instagram or trying to send you influencer things. Like I get them on all of my pages of, oh, this person wants to send you something free or wants you to be a influencer for this corporation, and it's a scam. Like you just have understood that those things are scams, and so you don't want to put yourself in that category of where people think you're being scammy by sending them a link to buy your book without any other context. Also, another thing that is something you want to watch out for when you're thinking about, okay, is my book really for this audience, is just posting your book and on Facebook. I see this all the time. Posting your book on Facebook, being like, all right, my book's out, go buy it. And you haven't had any lead up. You had not had a book launch. And by launch, I don't mean posting your book and saying it's up. I mean a series of steps that you've taken to let people know that your book is coming out. You just are posting your book. You have the little mock-up of like, okay, go buy my book. It's ready now. Now, does that strategy work? To a degree. So it can work to a degree. If it's your first book, a lot of times that works because people are just excited and wanting to celebrate you for your first book. But after those initial sales, if you're not doing anything else to continuously market your book, if you're not actually spending time and energy finding who your book is for and finding where that person hangs out, then you're going to see your sales slow down. And so also those people who are buying it in general, if it's not something that is attuned to them, they're buying it out of just proximity to you to support you, which is fine. Like, well, those are great sales too. However, making it so that they can connect it to somebody else that's still going to be the ideal reader for the book. So for example, my mom book, my mom book at the time of this recording is called New Mom Thoughts, Real Questions for Moms with Real Feelings. And it's for first-time moms. Now, at the time of writing it, I did have a lot of friends that were first-time moms. And so it was something where I asked them to be beta readers for the book, meaning I gave them some of the book early for them to read. I connected with organizations, therapists, doulas, asked people that are in proximity to new moms, asked them if they could take a look at the book. I would give them a free copy in exchange. And then those were some of the first people who became my reviewers on Amazon. Now, after that first part, once you've had a kid, you have the next kid, you're no longer a new mom. At this point, I have 2 kids. So now this book is 4 years old. However, there's still ways that I can continue to market that book to people who are in proximity of that. So, for example, if you know a mom who's just had a baby, or you know a mom who's having a hard time and that maybe needs an outlet, even if it's not their first kid, because of the way the book is written, it's not just geared towards first-time moms. However, at the time, that was my first book, and so that's what I called it, and that's what I was going through. But I have had secondary, tertiary moms who still find benefits of the book. So now I have to adjust my marketing to address that, or I can strictly focus on companies, organizations that are working with first-time moms. So partnering with hospitals, reaching out to them to see if it's something that they can recommend as a resource, or my child's pediatrician, that of course they're going to have a consistent flow, a consistent pattern of people who fit that book who come there. And so finding those places where those people hang out is going to be key for continuous sales. Or asking folks, I know when I did my marketing for that book, put up a post and said, if you do not need this book, but you know somebody that does, or if you do not need this book, but you still want to help out with the promotion, let me know, comment. And then I created a systematic approach for them to be able to help me for my book launch, because it was something where I knew my book was not for everybody. And that's okay. Like, everything is not for everybody. Every book is not for everyone, and that's fine. However, there's a high chance that, depending upon your book's topic, especially if you're in the nonfiction space, if you're a nonfiction author, there's a high chance that someone knows someone who that book could be for. And so you don't want to overlook those things whenever you are talking about, whenever you're talking about who it is that your book's for or who you want to sell your book to. So now I'm going to wrap this up in just a bit, but I do want to remind you that I am hosting a set of master classes with my summer series. of sales and marketing masterclasses. And so I will dig deeper into the creating raving fans, which is what we're talking about today, of where to exactly find those folks when you are not sure where they might be, because it can be hard and challenging to know, okay, where does my ideal reader hang out? How do I know what they are working on or not working on? Well, if you're a business author or a business book author, that could be it. How do I know what kind of things they need? Or if you're a fiction author, how do I know that this is going to be a story that appeals to them? And so really digging deep and finding those places where those folks hang out. And also understanding that just because you are marketing to one person doesn't mean that you are cutting out everybody else. And so this is another common thing that I hear is that, oh, well, I mean, if I only talk to one person, then other people are going to think my book is not for them. That's not true. So giving you some examples. Well, not true to some degree. Let me add a caveat. So just because you talk to this one person, there's still going to be other people that support and love what you're doing, and they want to be a part of it as well. And so, for example, let's think about people who are very clear about their marketing. So like Tabitha Brown, she is very clear about she's vegan, and so she shares vegan recipes. She's got an auntie vibe, and she's a believer. And so those are the people that she speaks to, and she's just being herself. But what the things that she does, she comes out with things that are like Essence Fest fabulous type feel. Now that doesn't mean that other people who are not believers, or other people who are not like, I don't need an auntie, the people like that, they still like her and they still gravitate towards her things, because she is so specific and so targeted into what she does and how she acts and how she moves. And she doesn't change who she is to be in different spaces. And so that's an example. And then also thinking about like Target. So Target markets itself as like, we're kind of like a step above Walmart. They don't directly like shun Walmart or knock Walmart, but it's this ongoing thing of like, okay, well, Target, if I'm going to Target, I might have my beverage in my hand. Then not me, but in general, Target shoppers, they might have like their drink in their hand from Starbucks, or they I know they're going there and they're not like, they don't go there with a list. They're just like, I'm gonna let Target tell me what I need. Whereas in Walmart, you're like, I gotta get in and out. I need to get these 5 things. I'm going here because it's cheap, and I'm not going to Walmart for vibes. I'm going because I need to get some stuff for the kids, and I don't want to spend a bunch of money. Whereas Target, people are like, throw it in the cart. I don't really have to worry about how much it is because I'm gonna buy it anyway. And then you get to the register and you're like, how do these 5 things equal $200? But that's just an understanding that when you go to Target, that's what it is. And so the approaches are totally different. You want to think about how you, as an author, as a book business, can convey these similar feelings and these similar vibes or these similar connotations with your book and the things that you share or produce that are adjacent to your book. So whether it's products and services, coaching offerings, if you have a book bundle, if it's a children's book, things like that. And so once again, thank you so much for your time. And if you want to dig deeper and explore this further, join the masterclass series, and we'll be doing live hot seats, meaning that you'll be able to share what your book is, and I'll give you one-on-one tips and examples of how you can adjust what you're currently doing in your marketing within these different categories, playing Vanna over here, within these different categories. And then also, of course, we'll have Q&A, so that way you can get exactly what you need to understand how to find your ideal reader and to know where they hang out, as well as how to get bulk book orders from organizations where that ideal reader is a part of, and individual sales on Amazon, waking up to those sleeper sales as a part of figuring out your book marketing. Okay. So if you have any questions, add them in the comments and below, and let me know your biggest takeaway from this video. Have a good one.